It's almost 3 in the morning, and the streets of Pembroke are empty. The kind of empty that only a small Welsh town can manage in the dead of winter. No traffic, no voices, just the wind and the dark pressing in from every direction. Anna Sullivan is sitting in her car near the petrol station. Engine running, heater on, eyes scanning the road ahead. She's done this before, many times actually. Every time her daughter Lily goes out for the night, Anna drives down and waits. Doesn't matter if it's midnight or 3 a.m. She'll be there. That's just the kind of mother she is. And Lily, for her part, always shows up. That's just the kind of daughter she is. Tonight, though, something is different. Anna checks her phone. It's 2:47 a.m. on December 17, 2021. Lily was supposed to be here by now. She dials her daughter's number, and after a few rings, Lily picks up. The conversation is brief. Lily says she's on her way, she won't be long. But then the call cuts off, abruptly, mid-sentence almost. No goodbye, no love you, Mum, just silence. And Anna knows immediately that something is wrong. If you knew Lily Sullivan, you'd understand why that mattered. Lily was polite. She was articulate. She didn't just hang up on people, especially not her mother. If anything, she was the kind of girl who'd stay on the phone too long, making sure she'd said everything she needed to say. This wasn't her. This wasn't how they talked. Anna calls back. No answer. She calls again. Nothing. And again and again. The phone just rings and rings, cycling endlessly to voicemail. Over the next hour, Anna will call her daughter more than 30 times. Every single one goes unanswered. Think about the last time you tried to reach someone and couldn't. Maybe it was a friend who was late, or a kid who forgot to check in. Remember that low hum of worry that starts in your chest and slowly works its way up into your throat? Now multiply that by 30. Multiply it by the pitch darkness outside. Multiply it by the fact that your 18-year-old daughter is somewhere out there in a town with no streetlights, near water, near God knows what, and she's not picking up her phone. Anna doesn't know what to do. Stay put at the meeting point? Drive around looking? She's caught in that terrible loop every parent dreads. The one where standing still feels like giving up and moving feels like you might miss them coming from the other direction. Then, sometime after 3 a.m., Anna sees something that stops her cold. A man hurries past her car. He's moving quickly, not quite running but not walking normally either. He looks agitated, flustered. His body language is all wrong. Head in his hands one moment, arms swinging wildly the next, breaking into a jog and then stopping again. And Anna gets a feeling. Not a thought exactly, something deeper than that. Something primal and maternal and utterly certain. This man has something to do with her daughter. She puts the car in gear and tries to follow him. She wants to get a better look, wants to see where he's going. But the man cuts through a wooded area and vanishes into the trees, and Anna is left alone again. Alone in the dark, with a phone full of unanswered calls and a feeling in her gut that will never go away. To understand what happened to Lily Sullivan, you don't need a history lesson. You just need to understand the feeling of a place like Pembroke. It is a tiny, tight-knit community in the southwest corner of Wales, a place with a population smaller than a single neighborhood in London or New York. There are no anonymous crowds here. Everyone knows everyone. You see the same faces at the pub, the same families at the schools, the same neighbors at the supermarket. This is the kind of town people move to specifically to escape crime. It's scenic, it's historic, and above all, it's supposed to be safe. It's the kind of place where parents don't panic when their teenagers go out, because nothing ever happens here. But the problem with small towns is that they have no buffer. In a big city, a tragic location is just an address you avoid. In Pembroke, the center of the tragedy is the Mill Pond, a beautiful spot right in the center of town that you have to walk past every single day to buy your groceries. When the unthinkable strikes a place like this, it doesn't just make the news. It shatters the reality of every person who lives there. And on a cold December night in 2021, that reality was about to break. Lily Sullivan was, by every account, exactly the kind of person you'd want in the world and desperately wish there were more of. She was 18 years old, a college student with a part-time job at a local supermarket. She loved art. She was a budding artist with real talent. She loved house music. She loved tattoos. She was, in the most wonderful sense, a completely typical young woman figuring out who she was and enjoying every minute of the discovery. But there was a depth to Lily that set her apart. Her friends described her as mature, beyond her years. She wrote and spoke with a clarity and eloquence that you wouldn't necessarily expect from a teenager, particularly when it came to things she cared about. And what Lily cared about, more than almost anything, was the safety of women. Lily was an outspoken advocate against misogyny and physical harm toward women. Her social media told the story of someone who was paying attention to the world and refusing to stay quiet about what she saw. After the tragic loss of Sarah Everard, the London woman abducted, assaulted, and whose life was taken by a police officer while she was simply walking home, Lily posted photos of floral tributes. She wrote, "She was just walking home." She shared messages about bodily autonomy. She posted guides about how to recognize if you're being spiked at a bar. She shared the phrase that had become a rallying cry, "Not all men, but all women," meaning not every man is a threat, but every woman lives with the threat. At 18, Lily understood something that many people twice her age still struggle to grasp. Now, the bond between Lily and her mother. Because without understanding that, you can't understand any of what comes next. Anna Sullivan went through 14 miscarriages before Lily was born. 14. Try to wrap your head around that kind of loss, the hope and the heartbreak, over and over and over, 14 times. And then, finally, Lily arrived. A blessing. That's the word Anna used, and it's hard to think of a better one. They were extraordinarily close, not in a suffocating way. Anna was not the kind of mother who locked her daughter up and threw away the key. She supported Lily's independence completely. She encouraged her to go out, to enjoy herself, to explore life as a young adult. But she also made sure she was there as a safety net, every single time. No matter how late Lily stayed out, Anna would be waiting in that car, ready to take her daughter home. There's a story that captures everything about their relationship. Anna suffered a heart attack. She didn't want to make a fuss, brushed it off, said it was nothing. But Lily wouldn't let her. Lily called for help. Lily made sure her mom got to the hospital. Lily, by every reasonable measure, saved her mother's life. They took care of each other. That's what they did. On the night of December 16, 2021, Lily told her mom she was going out with friends. It was the week before Christmas. The whole town was buzzing. Anna told her to have fun, to be safe, and to call when she was ready to be picked up. Lily headed into town. She ended up at a nightclub called Out. It was a busy night, pre-Christmas energy, people celebrating. Lily was having a great time. She was with her friends, laughing, dancing. At some point during the evening, Lily's friend was ready to leave and wanted Lily to come along. But Lily didn't want to go just yet. She was enjoying herself, wanted to stay a little longer. Her friend eventually left without her. It was the last time she would see Lily. Let's slow down and go back to that nightclub. Because what happened inside Out that night matters enormously. Lily was there, and so was a man she'd never met before. Witnesses inside the club saw this man approach Lily. He was buying her drinks. He was charming, attentive, flirtatious. They were dancing together. At one point, they were kissing. On the surface, nothing about this was unusual. An older guy chatting up a younger woman at a club before Christmas. That's a scene that plays out every single night of the week, in every town and city. But people on both sides were uneasy. The man's friends told him to back off. They pointed out he had a girlfriend. They told him the girl was too young. She was 18. He was 13 years older. In a town where everyone knows everyone, these weren't abstract concerns. They were people saying, "We know who you are. We know who she is. And this isn't going to end well." He didn't listen. He told his friends he wanted to take things further with Lily. He had his sights set, and he wasn't going to be talked out of it. Around 2 a.m., CCTV cameras captured Lily leaving the Out nightclub. She was not alone. The man was with her. They stood outside for a moment, chatting, and then they began to walk. On the footage, it was clear that he was leading, directing them away from the main road, away from the lights, toward a narrow, dimly lit lane, a path that led toward the outskirts of town, toward an area called Mill Pond. This is the last time Lily Sullivan would appear on any camera. Meanwhile, less than a quarter-mile away, Anna Sullivan sat in her car near the petrol station, waiting. At 2:47 a.m., Anna called Lily. Lily picked up, said she was nearly there. Then the call dropped, cut off mid-conversation, like someone had grabbed the phone. Anna called back. Nothing. Called again. Nothing. She kept calling. 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, 30. The phone just rang into the void. Then came the man, the figure hurrying past her car in the darkness, erratic and panicked. The man she tried to follow. The man who disappeared into the woods. And then, silence. We need to leave Anna here for a moment, sitting in that car, terrified, alone, because the next part of this story shifts to a small village called Lampfey, about 2 miles outside Pembroke. It's close to 4 a.m. A woman named Maisie John is at home. She'd had a normal evening, went to the pub, met friends, came home. She'd put the cricket on TV and settled in. Then the front door opened. Maisie looked down from upstairs and saw her boyfriend standing in the entryway. He was a mess, panicked, unable to form coherent sentences. And then he said the words that no human being should ever have to hear in the middle of the night. He told her he had just taken someone's life, just blurted it out, standing in the doorway at nearly 4 in the morning, drunk and shaking. Maisie must have looked at his face and known instantly it was true. There was no ambiguity. He had done what he said he'd done. Then he asked her to drive him to his parents' house. He wanted to tell them. Imagine that car ride. 2 people sitting next to each other, one knowing they'd just committed the ultimate crime, the other trying to process that the person she shared a home with was capable of something unimaginable. When they arrived, it was past 4 a.m. His parents were asleep. He banged on the door until his stepfather opened it. The first word out of his mouth was, "Sorry." Then he explained, haltingly, that he'd had an argument with a girl, that she was now in the pond. His stepfather drove him to the mill pond. When they arrived, there was no need for further explanation. Lily was visible almost immediately, a young woman face down in the black water, missing her upper garments, motionless. His stepfather called the police. Officers arrived at the mill pond in the pre-dawn hours of December 17, 2021. Paramedics made a desperate attempt to revive the young woman pulled from the water, but there was no hope. She'd been in the pond far too long. In all likelihood, she had already passed away before she ever entered it. She was formally identified as 18-year-old Lily Sullivan, and the man who had led others to her, the man whose stepfather had made that phone call, was arrested at the scene. His name was Lewis Haynes. Haynes was 31 years old. He worked at the Valero oil refinery, one of the major employers in the area. Physically, he was a powerful man, strong, athletic. He was reasonably well known around town as a player on the local cricket team, a sportsman with a circle of friends, a girlfriend, a daughter, and by all outward appearances, a normal life in a quiet corner of Wales. He was also, at the time of his arrest, extremely drunk. That presented an immediate challenge for investigators. When you arrest someone who's heavily intoxicated, there are strict limitations on what you can do. The priority is to secure them, get them into custody, get them processed, and wait. But even before any formal questioning, Haynes had already said a great deal. He'd confessed to Maisie John. He'd confessed to his mother and stepfather. He'd led his stepfather to the location. He'd been arrested at the scene where Lily was found. But a confession, especially one made while drunk, isn't enough on its own. Confessions can be retracted. Defense attorneys can argue coercion, confusion, intoxication. What police needed now was physical, forensic, irrefutable evidence. In any investigation, the hours immediately following the discovery are called the golden hours. Evidence is freshest, memories are sharpest, the forensic picture is at its clearest. In Pembroke, the perimeter was enormous. It wasn't just the mill pond. The entire route from the nightclub to the water was a potential scene. The nightclub itself, the lane leading down to the pond, Haynes' route home, Maisie John's house in Lampfey. Officers fanned out across Pembroke in the darkness, working methodically through each site. And very quickly, what they found began to tell a story, one that was dramatically different from anything Lewis Haynes would later try to sell. The first critical discoveries came from the alleyway, the narrow, dimly lit lane called Morgan's Way, running from the main road toward Mill Pond. Scattered along this path, investigators found Lily's belongings. Not a path someone had walked down willingly and calmly, but a scene of a severe struggle. Further along, near the mill pond itself, officers found Lily's handbag. The zipper showed undeniable signs of a desperate physical altercation, as though she had swung the bag at her attacker in an attempt to defend herself, and her hair caught in the zip during the fight. And then came the discovery that blew apart any notion of an accidental tragedy. Near the pond, in the vegetation, investigators found Lily's top and crop top. Both garments were completely dry. Think about that. Lily was partially unclothed when she was found face down in the water. Her clothing had been removed before she went in. Not during, not after, before. Someone had forcefully removed the clothes prior to putting her in the pond, and the only person who could have done that was the man sitting in a police cell across town. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a stumble. And the dry clothing, found separate from where she was discovered, suggested something else, something that pointed toward a much darker, sinister motivation. While the scene was being processed, investigators turned their attention to Lewis Haynes himself. In forensic terms, a suspect's body and clothing are their own evidence source. On Haynes's jogging bottoms, they found crucial physical evidence, DNA, that belonged to Lily Sullivan. This placed him in direct physical contact with Lily at the time she was being injured, not hours before, in the nightclub, during the attack itself. Then came the medical examination. The findings revealed a catalog of injuries that painted an unflinching picture of Lily's final moments. There was extensive evidence of severe trauma to her neck and airway. She had sustained significant blunt force injuries to her eye, her cheek, and her collarbone. There were also marks on her arms. But here's what made the findings especially devastating. There were no defensive wounds on Lily's hands. None. No evidence from her fingernails that she was able to fight back. The findings indicated that Haynes had overpowered her so quickly and completely that she never even had the chance to defend herself. He blindsided her with such sudden, overwhelming force that by the time Lily understood what was happening, it was already too late. The cause was confirmed as severe neck trauma leading to asphyxiation. If she had still been breathing when she entered the pond, there would have been water in her lungs. There wasn't. Lily Sullivan had already passed away before she ever touched the mill pond. With the physical evidence collected and CCTV footage analyzed, investigators could finally reconstruct the horror of those missing minutes. We know they walked down Morgan's Way. We know Lily answered her mother's call at 2:47 a.m. Investigators believe that when the call cut off, it was because Haynes took the phone. Lily wanted to go to her mother. She wanted to leave, but Haynes didn't think the same way. When Lily made it clear she didn't want to go any further, when she rejected his advances and told him to stop, Lewis Haynes erupted. There was CCTV footage of what followed. It was so graphic, so disturbing, that prosecutors made the decision not to play it in court. What the evidence revealed was that when Lily said no, Haynes became aggressive. He forcefully attacked her. He tore at her clothing, ripping off her top and crop top as part of the assault. He targeted her neck and restricted her breathing. Lily's belongings went flying. Her phone, tobacco tin, jacket, scattered along the alleyway as she fought for her life. A neighbor was woken by the sound of a woman's scream. Near a barber shop close to the lane, another person heard sounds of a scuffle, a man and a woman in some kind of violent confrontation. Neither intervened. It was the dead of night, and in those confused, half-awake moments, no one could have imagined what was actually happening just yards from their homes. Haynes attacked Lily until she lost consciousness. He didn't know if she had survived or not. He wasn't taking chances. He moved her down to the mill pond and put her into the water, face down. Her top and crop top, torn from her during the attack, lay dry in the vegetation nearby. Then he walked away. He passed Anna Sullivan's car, broke into a run when he saw her, and disappeared into the woods. Once sober enough to sit in an interview room, Lewis Haynes began to talk. Or rather, he began to spin a story. He was willing to admit to things he couldn't deny. Yes, he'd been at the club. Yes, they'd kissed. But when it came to the fatal outcome, Haynes claimed it was an accident. He said he lost his temper, punched her, and she fell into the pond. He claimed he tried to save her. A 31-year-old man strikes an 18-year-old girl in the face, grabs her by the neck, and then, according to him, she accidentally falls into a pond. If he had genuinely tried to save her, he would have called 999. He had a phone. He didn't make a single call. He didn't shout for help. He just went home. Because there was no rescue attempt. There was nothing to rescue. Lily had already passed away before she entered the water, and the medical experts proved it. As the interview progressed and police presented the evidence, the dry clothes, the lack of water in lungs, the physical evidence on his pants, Haynes became increasingly evasive. On December 20th, 2021, the Crown Prosecution Service formally charged Lewis Haynes with the ultimate crime. On May 16, 2022, Haynes appeared at Swansea Crown Court. He admitted to manslaughter but denied the most severe charge. His argument was that he never intended to take Lily's life. It was an unsustainable position. The prosecution had mountains of evidence that proved intent. A trial date was set for June 20th, and then, just 1 week before the trial was scheduled to begin, Haynes blinked. Faced with the overwhelming weight of evidence, he changed his plea. He admitted full guilt to the primary charge, but even then, he wouldn't come clean about everything. He continued to deny any sinister ulterior motive. This mattered because such a motive would significantly increase his prison sentence. So, a special hearing had to take place where the judge would decide the facts. The hearing commenced on June 20th, 2022. The gallery was packed with Lily's family and friends, and what they witnessed from the man in the dock was, in its own way, almost as enraging as the crime itself. Lewis Haynes sat with his head in his hands, crying. He tried to perform remorse, but then he launched his defense. Haynes tried to blame Lily. He claimed that after they were kissing, Lily threatened to tell his girlfriend unless he gave her money. He looked the court in the eye and claimed this 18-year-old girl attempted to blackmail him. Let that sink in. An 18-year-old girl, a girl whose social media was full of posts about protecting women, about fighting misogyny, about the injustice of harm, had supposedly tried to extort money from a stranger she'd just met. Lily Sullivan was gone. She could not speak for herself. She could not defend her reputation. And the man responsible was standing in a courtroom, trying to drag her name through the mud just to knock a few years off his sentence. The judge wasn't buying it. The evidence showed clearly that Lily had rejected him, and his pride couldn't take it. He took an 18-year-old girl's life because she said no, and then he played the victim. Before we get to how this ends, it's worth pausing to think about the full reach of what Lewis Haynes did. In a place like Pembroke, a tragedy doesn't fade into the background noise. It seeps into the stone. It changes the way people look at streets they grew up on. Everybody in Pembroke probably knows where they were when they heard about Lily Sullivan. Her friends lost someone they looked up to. Haynes has a daughter of his own who will grow up knowing her father committed this crime. And Anna, Lily's mother, the woman who waited 14 miscarriages for her miracle baby. Anna told the court she had decided to leave Pembroke. She couldn't stay. Every street corner, every shop, the mill pond, the petrol station where she'd waited, all of it was a reminder. Haynes didn't just take Lily from her, he took her home. There's a painful irony to this case. Lily Sullivan understood the world she lived in. She posted about harm against women. She wrote, "Not all men, but all women." She knew the danger existed, and none of it saved her, because knowing the danger doesn't protect you from it. Lily Sullivan did nothing wrong. She went out, she danced, she wanted to go home. And for the simple act of saying no, she was taken from the world. On August 28, 2022, Lewis Haynes stood for sentencing. The judge, having determined that the attack did carry an ulterior motive, dismissing Haynes's lies about blackmail, set a severe sentence. Lewis Haynes was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 23 years and 4 months before he would be eligible for parole. Haynes sat in the dock with his head in his hands, a picture of self-pity, not sorry for what he did to Lily Sullivan, sorry for what happened to him. Lily was 18 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. She was just trying to go home.